أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم ولا خلفهم ولا يحيطون من شيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. اقرأ في التين أتبين يشمع غرغي وما يكفر من الطاعون ونؤمن بالله واستمسك من أرض يسرى فلم نسأ لها الله سميع عليم الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا بالله والطاغوت يخرجون من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. صدق الله ولي العظيم.
Inshallah, brothers and sisters, that was our dear brother Zain Amiri, who was reciting the Ayatul Kursi. May Allah, for the sake of this beautiful verse, protect all who have gathered over here today and all the commemorators of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain around the world. Inshallah, we'll start with Surah Yasin. As it is a Thursday night, we remember our marhumeen and dedicating the thawab of this beautiful surah to all our marhumeen, the marhumeen of those who have gathered over here, those members of the community, the lovers of Ahlul Bayt who are with us till these past few years, but they are no longer with us. Inshallah, dedicating the thawab to all these beautiful souls, and especially for those ulama idha maraj ikram, the shuhada of Islam, and who do not have anyone left in this world, to dedicate thawab to them. So inshallah, we'll begin with the recitation of Surah Yasin. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين وما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا ممن بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم أزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلاق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إنه هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشاها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون وسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم محمد وآل محمد صلوات
Hussain, Jazakumullah. Inshallah, to continue with the recitation of Holy Quran. Alhamdulillah, we had our dear brothers, Brother Yusuf and Brother Shukrullah, who was reciting. And now, inshallah, to continue with the recitation of the Holy Quran, and I'll request Agha Jawed, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can you get the chair? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولله ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء قدير. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صدق الله العلی العظیم. جهت تأجیل در فرج آقا امام زمان صلوات.
Hussain, Jazakumullah. May Allah illuminate our hearts with the nur of Quran, inshallah. In order to recite salam in the honor of the martyrs of Karbala, I'll request my request to our uncle Mir Hashim, inshallah, to recite a few poetic verses. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. گرز یعقوب تنها، یوسف اندر جهان گم شد. و دشت کوفه از ختم رسول، یک دودمان گم شد. بهارم نشد شیرازه آواره رفت ای گردون. چو در دشت بلا قرآن ناطق از میان گم شد. تن پاک حسین علیه السلام از نعل ستم بر مرکب دشمن اینا با مال شد که نشان استخوان گم شد. فغان زاندم که لیلا تیرباران دید اکبر را، تا دیدن چشم بر هم زد نور چشمش از میان گم شد. چنان زد مزه ها اندر شب اهل بیت آتش، که در چشم یتیمان گوهر آب روان گم شد. و دشت هر جا و دشت هر خاره که سر بیرون کشید از گل، و پای زخمدار عابد بیمار آن گم شد. به رحمتک یا ارحم الراحمین و صلی الله محمد و آل اجمعین طیبین الطاهرین. السلام.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Sent. Alhamdulillah, as I mentioned, that we are granted this beautiful opportunity that we are able to hold these commemorations of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain. Just a few announcements. Alhamdulillah, this year we're blessed with the presence of our respected Sayyid Hussain Ali, who has spent, alhamdulillah, a number of years in Hawza and Qum as well, and he has shared with us this beautiful topic that he has chosen for this Ashara, which is the topic of Tawheed. The other announcement regarding the recitations, if any of the brothers, younger brothers, elders would like to recite, there's a sign-up sheet on my left, posted on the wall. You can sign up your name for any respect of the nights that you would like to recite. For the sponsorship of Tabarruk, Niyaz, you can either let on the sister's side or on the brother's side, they're both sign-up sheets. If you're unsure, you can also speak to the volunteers, inshallah, who can also help you in any regard. This year, the amount that has been set as a target to fundraise is set to $25,000. And it is not limited just to the Muharram events, but throughout the year, whatever events happen for the entire community, the funds are used to arrange those events. So encouraging everyone to participate in these sponsoring these events and inshallah contributing towards this cause. Before I request my respected Sayyid, inshallah, recite a few poetic verses penned by Shaykhna al-Hassan Muhammad Yasin, who pens this beautiful poem witnessing the new moon of Muharram al-Haram. He says, with the new crescent comes an event like no other. The heavens are filled with lamentations of a mother, an imam, a guide, a master, a father, and also a brother. Your love, your light, your sacrifice, there will never be another. To be away from you and your mourning perish, I'd rather. How will I in front of God face Fatima and your grandfather? Upon the banks of the Furat you lay thirsty, and that is our pain. For I testify to God there is no day like yours, O Hussein. For I testify to God there is no day like yours, O Hussein. La yawm ka yawmak ya Aba Abdullah. And with this, I'll request our respected Sayyid Hussain Ali to address this Masjid al-Si'aza. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah. الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين إنه خير الناصر والمعين وأفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. The subject that we have decided to talk about in these discussions and over these nights is the subject of Tawheed. Tawheed is the basis of our deen. It is the underlying principle of our belief system. It helps us to understand and answer the most important questions that we would refer to as fundamental human questions. Questions that each and every one of us at some point in our lives asks ourselves. Questions pertaining to the purpose of our existing. Why are we here? Where did we come from? Where are we going? So in yesterday's discussion, we discussed a hadith from Imam al-Muwahhideen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi afdalus salati was salam. The hadith was that the Amir says that God's mercy may be upon the one who knows where he came from, where he is, and where he is going. Rahimallahu imra'in alima min ain wa fi ain wa ila ain. So the mercy of Allah should be on the one who knows his purpose in life. We also connected that to the usul ad-din. We took the 5 pillars of our deen, Tawheed, Adala, Nabuwa, Imama, and Ma'ad, and we said that if we look at these 5 pillars and we connect it to those 3 questions, we see that the answer lies right there in front of us. Because when you go from Tawheed to Ma'ad, you're figuring out where you came from, you're figuring out what you have to do here, and you're figuring out what is waiting for you in the hereafter. And the conclusion that we reached was that everything is coming back to Tawheed. Because the common factor in all of the 5 pillars is Allah. We are from Him. He has provided us the guides here, and we are going back to Him. So, the journey of Tawheed is from Allah to Allah by Allah. We also did a brief comparison of 2 ayat in the Quran. Ayah number 110 of Surah Kahf and ayah number 108 of Surah Anbiya. From that, we were able to conclude that all the revelations that came on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam every single revelation that was revealed upon him was essentially talking about what? Talking about Tawheed. That annama ilahukum ilahun wahid is the only revelation in essence.
everything is going back to Tawheed. So what we understood from yesterday's discussion was that this is a very important subject. And we understood that it is the basis of everything. We understood that this is how we can figure out our purpose in life. But before we delve further into the subject, there's something that we need to tackle. We need to tackle an issue that we're facing, especially in today's day and age. And it happens to us the more we get entrenched into this world, the more we increase in our responsibilities in this world, the more we, start taking on these different burdens in this world, the more our connection with Allah starts to weaken. And there are both internal and external factors that are affecting this. And in today's world, it's extremely important for us to strengthen that aqeedah, strengthen that belief that we have about Allah's existence and knowing Allah the way that He wants to be known. Please send a salawat. There's been a concerted effort in today's world to distance us from Allah. There are very strong external forces that are taking our focus away from that which is most important. And unfortunately, people are getting to the point where they even start questioning the existence of Allah, even though it is something that is innate within us, it's inherent within us, to know that there is a higher power, to know that Allah exists. So based on that, it is incumbent upon us, it is necessary for us to realize why our memories need to be refreshed, to realize that God exists. See, all of us, as I mentioned, inherently we have an inclination that Allah, God, some higher power exists, or even has a possibility of existing. Now, if you were to look at history, every single civilization that has passed had some sort of higher power that they were connecting themselves to. Every civilization in history had some form of worship that they were performing or some higher power that they were looking towards. And they might have misconstrued their understanding. So some might have fallen in mistakes and started worshiping idols, or others might have fallen in mistakes and started worshiping the sun, for example. But each and every one of those civilizations had it inherent within themselves to connect to a higher power. Nowadays, what some people say is that, these civilizations were backwards. They would see like phenomena, like natural phenomena. It would scare them, so just out of fear, they would just worship something. But the question is that if they were scared, and if they didn't know, and if they had that fear inside of them, then why were they naturally attracted towards a higher power? Right? Why was it that what they turned to for sanctuary and what they turned to be saved from that natural disaster, eclipse, or whatever it was, why was it that they were turning to a higher power? So that part of it gets ignored. It's just, no, they were backwards. We're advancing forward. We're making all of these advancements. We are an advanced civilization. So there's not a single civilization or community that Allah has left without a guide, without the guidance to come back to Him. There's not a single community in all of history. What does Allah say in the Quran? He says in Surah Nahl 36, He says that we have not left a community without a messenger. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. That every single community that has passed has had a messenger that has been calling them towards the worship of Allah. So now, if we know that Allah has sent messengers And according to certain aqwal that we have, 124,000 of them, and they're all bringing forth the same message. It's a message that's being constantly repeated. It's the same message over and over again. Worship God. Come back to Him. Consider Him one. There is an existence of a heaven and a hell. There's reward and punishment after this life. These are common messages that are being repeated over and over and over again. And what we established yesterday is that in essence, every single messenger, according to the Quran, every single messenger that is being sent is calling the people to Tawheed of Allah, is calling the people to Ilahukum ilahun wahid. So if we've noticed this now, that this message is being constantly repeated over and over again, then it's only rational for us to investigate it a little further. We can't just sit back and say that, no, you know what, they're just messages that are coming. If we're rational human beings, then we need to put some possibility, even if it's a minute possibility, even if it's 1%, that the constant repetition of these messages has some truth to it. And also give the possibility that if I don't take heed of these messages, that I will face the consequences in the afterlife. Please send a salawat. So that is a rational thing that we would do as rational human beings. Now, what is it that separates us from the animals as human beings? We have been created with an aql. Okay, we have an intellect. We are able to rationalize. We are able to decipher right from wrong. So it's prudent for us to ensure that we make use of that aql. Why do we want to not make use of something which sets us apart from animals? Why are we coming into this world knowing fully well? The human being understands that he's a complex creation. He's a complex creature. We understand that the way that we function as a society, that alone shows that we are the most complex creatures on this earth. So then why would we want to be just like an animal? So now the rational person will utilize his intellect, and he'll look at the fact that this message is constantly being repeated over and over and over again. And he'll say that, okay, I'll give it even a 1% possibility that it's true, so I'll investigate it further. So, you know what? We used the example of the highways yesterday. So let's use that same example. But when I'm heading back to Toronto, all of you come to me and you say that, I know you're planning on taking the 407, but there's a report of a sinkhole there. And that if you drive on the 407, your car is going to get stuck in it. It might even get sucked in and you'll probably die. Now, if all of you are coming to me, if I'm rational, then I'll be like, okay, you know what? It's probably true. Let me investigate it further. Let me check the news, or right? It's a rational thing to do, that I will investigate it further. And if I see that there are some reports saying that it's there and some reports saying that it's not there, and I'm still confused, the rational thing would be what? Would be to avoid that danger. I would rather take the longer way home than to potentially fall into that sinkhole that might or might not be there. Right? So this is the rational approach to looking at what is in front of us, looking at the repetition of what is happening, and then investigating it further. So at the very minimum, for anyone that's even gotten to a point where they're questioning the existence of God, or for those that haven't ever even thought about it, right? Alhamdulillah, all of us believe in Allah. Alhamdulillah, right? But we do have our moments where things get tough, things get difficult. And in that moment, we might have that thought of, does Allah even exist? So to avoid that, you create your aqidah, your belief, so strong from the base, from the foundation, that you investigate further, that you look into it further. So now we're talking about a God, we're talking about Allah, who has sent us thousands of invitations towards himself, thousands of warnings, thousands of reminders. And it's been repeated so many times over history. So we have to do our due diligence. We have a thing. We do due diligence in almost everything, right? For the business people, before you take on a project, for those that are doing investments, before you do an investment, you have to do your due diligence. And for the students, if you're done with your high school and now you're looking to pursue your studies in post-secondary education, you'll look at all the different schools and you'll try to see that which fits you the best. Now, these are just specific examples in our lives. What about our life in general? What about our whole life? Why are we not pursuing these things, and why are we not doing our due diligence? So once we have these sorts of principles in our mind, set in our mind, then we'll understand that I don't even have to worry about questioning the existence of God. I need to move forward and try to understand who God is. Please send a salawat. Now, yesterday we said something about Allah constantly inviting us and calling us and telling us to worship Him. And we understood that Allah doesn't need us in any way. Why is He calling us? He's not calling us. He's not inviting us to worship Him. He's not inviting us to remember Him because He needs to be remembered, because He needs our worship. It's only because He wants it for us. It's for our betterment. Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara ila Allah wallah huwal ghaniyul hamid. Surah Fatir, verse 15. What is Allah saying in the Quran? That, O humanity, you are the ones that are needy for Allah. You are the ones that are needy for Allah. He's reminding us that we need this. So everything that He is sending our way, all of these directions, all of these reminders, it's for us. And it is ultimately for our benefit and our success in this journey of Tawheed that we're taking. We came from Him. We've forgotten who He is. He's reminding us who He is so that we can go back to Him exactly how we were before. And the Quran, I believe, is the perfect place to investigate this further. To understand these matters further, we have to go back to the Quran. Because in the Quran is where we'll find most of these reminders. So please send a salawat. So one thing that Allah does in the Quran is that when He wants to stress the importance of something, He uses different methods. The way that the ayah is, the way that the words are being used in the ayah, the way that everything is constructed, and the way that it's being relayed to us, if He wants to stress something that's very important, He does it a certain way. So sometimes He'll give a qasam. He'll give an oath or a qasam, either by Himself, by the Prophet, by the creation. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. I swear by the sun and its brilliance. Right? Or Tallahi laqad arsalna ila umamin min qablik. That I swear by Allah. Allah is swearing by Allah. That I did send messengers to the ones that were there before you, O Prophet. Or sometimes what he will do is he will make himself a witness. Or he will show himself to partake in something. That even Allah does something. So when you see these types of things, you know that it's very important. Inna Allaha wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. The importance of sending praise on Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah is showing us this by saying, Inna Allaha wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi. That Allah and His angels are sending their praises to Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now in terms of Tawheed, and also the whole message of there not being anyone other than Allah. There is no Lord except for Allah. Allah shows us the importance of knowing this by making Himself witness to it. So He makes Himself witness on the fact that there is only Him and no one else, to stress the point of the importance of this concept for us. And the way that Allah speaks in the Quran is in tune with the way that we speak with each other. It connects with us at that level too. And that's the beauty of the Quran, is that it connects at so many levels, but even just the basic human level. When I know something is 100% true, and someone asks me about it, then I will willingly become witness to it or say that, yes, this is absolutely true. For example, if someone is looking for a book on a certain subject, and I've read that book, and I know that that book is exactly what that person needs, the way that I'll tell them is that, yeah, I read that book. I'll make myself the witness and say that I've read that book, and this is perfect for you. Right? So now Allah is making Himself witness on the fact that there is no God but Him. What does He say in Surah Al-Imran? This is Surah Al-Imran, ayah 18. شَهِدَ اللَّهُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ وَأُولُو الْعِلْمِ قَائِمًا بِالْقِسْطِ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. What is He saying here? Shahid Allahu. Allah Himself is a witness. Annahu la ilaha illa huwa. That surely there is no God except for Him. Wal malaikatu wal ulul ilm. Also the angels and those that have knowledge are bearing witness that there is no God but Him. Qa'iman bil qist. He is the maintainer of justice. He's putting everything exactly where it needs to be. He's giving you all the signs exactly how they're supposed to be given to you. La ilaha illa huwa al-azizul hakim. There is no God except Him. He is the Almighty and the Wise. Every time we look at an ayah and we start reflecting on it, this is why it's mustahab. This is why it's in the sunnah to just pick up an ayah and start reflecting on it. And new things open up for you. You start seeing things in a new light because what you're looking at is light. Right? The Quran is nur. So in this ayah, one way that Allah is stressing the fact that there is no God except Him is by making Himself witness. But if you pay attention to the ayah, you'll notice that He's repeating the kalama of La ilaha illallah twice. Right? He says what? He says, Shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illa huwa And then after qa'iman bil qist, he says what? La ilaha illa huwa al-azizul hakim. So he's putting that extra emphasis that this is very important for you to understand, that there is no God except for me. Now this kalima, la ilaha illallah, the tahleel as it's called, we should take a little break quickly to just focus on this kalima. Instead of like moving forward, let's just stop at this kalima for a second. La ilaha illallah. We say it all the time. We all know, first of all, that this is the first and basic dhikr that everyone who calls themselves a Muslim has to say. The kalima of La ilaha illallah is your admission that you're submitting yourself to Allah and only Him. So you cannot submit to Him without admitting to this reality. So in another way, we can also say that it is the clearest expression of Tawheed. It is the first expression of Tawheed, and it is the clearest expression of Tawheed. And it's something that we repeat every day as well. So here's something to look at that, again, these are things that I'm pretty sure everyone has thought about, noticed, but because the way that our lives are moving, because things are so fast-paced, we don't stop for a second to reflect on these things. Look at our salat, right? Namaz that we'll be praying, and that we pray 5 times a day. What do we do in our namaz? And what is a very beautiful saying that has been attributed to Rasulullah by our urafa and our ulama? As-salat mi'rajul mu'min. That your salat is your ascension to Allah. It is your mi'raj. That every time you stand in front of Allah to pray, you are ascending to Allah. You are performing your own mi'raj. But now look at this salat. What do we do before the salat? We do an iqamah. What do you say in the iqamah? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. What do you say in the middle of your salat? When you're doing your tashahhud. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. What are you saying at the end of your salat? To end your salat, you also have to do the tashahhud. So that salat that you're performing every single day, 5 times a day, is a microcosm of this journey that we are taking, the journey of Tawheed. Before it, you're signifying Tawheed. During it, you're signifying Tawheed. And to end it, you're signifying Tawheed. Please send a salawat. So now coming back to that statement, the kalima of La ilaha illallah. We need to reflect a little bit more on it. Have we realized how Allah has formulated this statement? He is starting the statement off with a la, with a negation. La in the Arabic language, this la is called la of nafi. It is the law of negation. So, for example, if I asked you, is it Maghrib time? You would say, la. It's not. So you're negating that fact. But as is the case with the Arabic language, there are levels, there are degrees. So now, this la, when it's used in a specific context, it means absolute negation. It can mean complete negation. So, for example, if la is used with illa, it means that everything that is coming before the illa is completely gone, is completely out the window, is completely negated. So the way that Allah has formulated this statement is la ilah. Any other God, deity, whatever you want to think about worshiping, anything of that nature, la, it's gone. Take it out. illallah, except for Allah. You see how precise everything is. See how clear everything is. All it requires us to do is just put a little bit of focus, put our tawajjuh towards it. And this is why if your belief system is strong, if your aqidah is strong, and you have that connection with Allah alive in yourself, then even in this fast-paced life, even in those moments, let's say you're working a 9-to-5 shift, it's extremely hard for you to find time to pray. But you still make some time and you pray. And you have to do it quickly because your boss is on your case, you have to get back to work. If you're increasing your ma'rifah and your understanding of Allah, then even that 2 minutes that you're spending in that salat, knowing what you are doing in that moment, knowing that this moment I am actually in my mi'raj, that 2 minutes is enough. Is enough. It won't faze you. Please send a salawat. So now taking this formula that Allah has given us for Tawheed, negate everything, then you'll find me. We take this approach and before we begin the actual discussion of Tawheed, we remove and negate all the doubts that exist within us. Any potential thing that can lead to some sort of doubt, we remove that first, then we go into the bahas of Tawheed. Now, the important thing about this discussion, and one of the reasons why we're talking about this, is because this is based on our belief. This is based on our aqidah. And this is not something that you're doing taqleed in. You're not following, you're not agreeing with Tawheed because of your parents or your grandparents or your friends or because so-and-so said. This is your aqidah, this is your belief. You have to come to that conclusion. And the reason for that is because each and every one of us have that innate connection with Allah. Each and every one of us within our own darfiyah and our own capacity have the ability to connect to Allah. So to strengthen this belief, to understand this thing, we have to do it on our own. We can't do it because of someone. Yes, we can use someone as a guide. Someone can help us find the right resources. But the ultimate conclusion that you make deep within yourself is for you and you only. Because one thing which is guaranteed in this life is death. Everyone has to face it. And when someone goes into the grave, it's not like a group gathering, right? It's not like a whole bunch of people are just all coming into the grave together and being questioned together. Everyone has their individual answer to give. And everyone that's coming here is coming individually. So if the beginning of the journey is individual and the end of the journey is individual, then while you're here, you have to be an individual as well. And you have to use that power that is within you, that innate connection that exists within you, that for whatever reason might have been diminished a little bit. But know that the mercy of Allah is such that it's only diminished and you're not realizing it. It's dormant inside of you. It's still there inside of you. Allah hasn't taken it out from you. It just requires you to refresh your memory. And this is why, inshallah, during these nights, we'll continue talking about this. Please send a salawat. So we discussed so far that we need to know Allah. It's necessary for us to know Allah and why it is important for us to do so rationally. And we also looked at how much importance Allah has given it Himself. But what's very interesting, something that our scholars have pointed out, if you look at the tafasir, you'll see this. That there is not a single place in the Quran where Allah is proving that He exists. There is no ayah in the Quran where Allah is saying that He exists. All He's pointing towards is what? He's pointing towards His tawheed. He's pointing towards His different attributes. But He's not saying, like for example, from that ayah, Ana mawjudun fa'buduni. Right? That I exist, so worship me. Right? Or Innama yuha ilayya annama ilahukum mawjudun. That it's been revealed to me that surely your God exists. There's not a single ayah in the Quran where Allah is specifically talking about His existence. And why is that? Because it's so evident. Allah considers it to be so evident and so clear that with a gentle reminder, you will understand that He exists. So He doesn't even need to say it once in the Quran. Ana mawjudun, that I exist. The only ayah that our ulama have pointed towards that is even hinting towards that, but even the word mawjud or ana mawjud is not in it, is where Allah in Surah Ibrahim verse 10 mentions what His messengers asked their people as a rhetorical question. Afillahi shakkun? A rhetorical question is what? It's when you are trying to persuade someone to a specific point. Is there really any doubt in Allah? This is what the messengers were asking. And this is the only time this is mentioned in the Quran. There's no other part, no other ayah that you'll see where Allah is specifically talking about telling us that, hey, I exist, because He doesn't need to. It's a self-evident truth. So let me give an example. Why is Allah considering this to be such a self-evident truth? Now, if I told all of you that this mimbar just came here by itself, and I give all sorts of qasams. Okay, I give qasam on myself, I give qasam on my life, I put my hand on the Quran, I say, listen, I swear to you, this mimbar, it wasn't here, it just appeared. You would all just look at me and probably tell me to take the 407 to go back to Toronto, right? Because no one here, not even the children, are going to agree with the fact that something came out of nothing. You see that? That principle is so self-evident to all of us that something doesn't come out of nothing. So then what is Allah doing to engage us with that self-evident truth? He's telling us to look at His signs. Everything that you're looking at didn't just appear by itself. This is what Allah is telling us. Look at my signs and you'll know me. So just by looking at my signs, you'll know that I exist, so I don't have to say that I exist. Please send a salawat. So Allah has done what in the Quran? He has taken the approach to get us to look at the creation around us. So that the fitrah, the innate connection that we have with Him, gets woken up and we're able to understand. Because even as children, we can understand that something doesn't come out of nothing. And obviously, that discussion itself goes a lot deeper. When you start talking about causality in philosophy, it gets a lot deeper. But at the bare minimum base level, each and every one of us, from the youngest child to the oldest person, will understand that when you see something affected, it has a cause. So every step of the way, Allah is connecting with our fitrah. He's calling us to look at everything that's around us. He says what? He says, look at the honeybee. He says, look at the sun. Look at the way that the day and the night move. He says, look at the stars. He says, look at how I formed you inside of the darkness of your mother's wombs. Look at the complexity of how you were created. So look around you and look at yourself. He's pointing towards all of these things. So now that we know that none of these things came into existence on their own, we need to, that fitra inside of us will tell us necessarily that yes, something must have brought them here. Something must have created them. So now the Quranic method is what? The Quranic method is that in terms of what we started our discussion on today was what? Was trying to figure out if God exists or not. Alhamdulillah, we all believe that God exists. And the Quran is also saying that yes, it's so self-evident that you should know that that Allah exists. Right? So the Quranic approach is that for you to always remind yourself that Allah exists, look at the creation around you. Look at the sun, you'll know that it has a creator. Look at the stars, you'll know that they have a creator. Look at the animals, you'll know that they'll have a creator. And even if you look at the trees or any other creature, you'll know that they have a creator. So the question arises, all of us are being told to look at the creation around us to know that Allah exists, to recognize Allah. But what about the one who was created before all of creation? أَوَّلُ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ نُورِي. Who said this? The Khatam al-Anbiya, Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. What is he saying here? He's saying that the first thing that Allah created was my light. Before all of creation, the first thing that Allah created was my light. So we have someone that doesn't need to look at the signs to recognize Allah. That doesn't need to look at the signs to know that Allah exists. And that person is our guide. That person is the one that's helping us complete this journey, taking us from the origin to the destination. Now, in this saying of the Prophet, in this hadith, he's saying, أَوَّلُ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ نُورِي. He's saying my light. He's not saying my human form. He's saying the first thing that he created was my light. And what else does the Prophet say? أَنَا وَعَلِي مِن نُورٍ وَاحِدٍ. Right? So that chain is continuing. That chain is continuing. We have a set of guides that are there, that know Allah by the direct manifestations of Allah, by the tajalliyat of Allah. They know Allah for Allah and by Allah, before having to look at other creations. They are our guides, and we are blessed, alhamdulillah, to be at their doorstep. So please send a salawat on them. And from these lights is the one that we are commemorating in these nights. One of the lights of Muhammad. What he did to save this message for us, to save this message of Tawheed for us. This will be remembered till the end of time. Because what he did was he connected himself to the infinite. In this world, he showed us that if you become fani in Allah, if you put yourself completely focused into Allah, and there is nothing for you except for Allah, then you are forever. And he was who? He was the fifth of the Ahlul Kisah. Right? He was the son of Fatimatul Zahra, salamullah alayha. what did the Prophet say about him? Hussainu minni wa ana min al-Hussain. He is from that light. He is from that light. So what he is doing here in Karbala, the second day of Karbala is when they arrived. Right? The Imam is in Karbala now. So what he did was, in his perfect devotion to Allah, right, he gathered his family and a small group of companions headed out from Medina. This is the same Medina, the same city where he used to play on the shoulders of his grandfather. And this is the same city where he had to make his final farewells to his beloved mother, his brother, and his grandfather. And he was now forced to leave and head towards Karbala. Everyone was turning against him. It is reported that when the caravan was heading out from Medina, and the Bani Hashim had gathered, and the ladies of the caravan were getting into their rides. The young men of Bani Hashim moved everyone away. Look at this modesty. This was the modesty. This was the respect and the status of the ladies of the household. That when they were going to come out of the house, everyone had to move away. The narrator says that one by one, the ladies of the Ahlul Bayt started coming out of their tents. And as they came towards their tents, there was someone there to help them on. Ramla came and there was Qasim there to help her. Layla came forward and Ali al-Akbar was there to help her. Kulthum came forward and Abbas was there to help her. The narrator says that one by one, each of these ladies got on, and the whole time Imam Hussain was watching. He says that a lady then came out of the tent. And Imam Hussain himself got up. Imam Hussain came right away to assist her. It was Bibi Zainab, she came out. Imam Hussain got up from his chair, he came to assist her. Hazrat Abbas came from the other side. On one side was Ali al-Akbar, and on the other side was Qasim. This is the honor and the sharaf with which the daughter of Ali made her departure from Medina. But now let's look at this same Zainab after Ashura. She will be left all alone when that caravan will be forced to move. When that caravan will be forced to leave Karbala towards Kufa and Sham, there will be no one there to help her. That's the time when she will look to her left and to her right. Oh, my brother Hussein, where are you? Oh, Abbas, where are you? Where are the sons of Ali to help me get on? Now, as this caravan moved through the deserts, according to certain narrations, the caravan, after it left Makkah, it moved. And it continued moving until they reached a point where the horse of Imam Hussain wouldn't move any further. So the Imam stopped there. He switched his ride, it still didn't move. So what he did was he called for the locals. He called for the locals and he said, ask them, what is this place called? So some of the locals came and they said, this place is called Ghazariya. The Imam said, does it have another name? Another person said, it's also known as Shattul Furat. So the Imam asked again, does it have another name? A third person said, it's also known as Karbala. The Imam then said, هذا موضع كرب وبلاء. This is the place of pain and calamity. This is our final destination. انزلوها هنا محط رحالنا. This is where we must disembark, and this is where our journey will come to an end. ومقتل رجالنا. This is where our men will be killed. ومسفك دمائنا. This is where our blood will be spilled. This is where the greatest tragedy will take place. This is where my childhood friend Habib will be taken from me. This is where I will lose my Ali Akbar. This is where Abbas will lose his hands and I will lose him forever. And this is where I will bid farewell to my dear sister Zainab. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ridan biqada'ihi wa tasliman li amrih. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلوات.
يا حسين 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 يا حسين
صلوات محمدي.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله.
لبای تیزی خنجر بوسم زنم برگ خنجر اشان حسین. لبای تیزی خنجر بوسم زنم برگ خنجر اشان حسین. ز غمش خواهر مظلوم ناله میزند سوی احوال پریشان حسین. لبای تیزی خنجر بوسم زنم برگ خنجر اشان حسین. لبای تیزی خنجر بوسم زنم برگ خنجر اشان حسین. یک طرف بخاک و غلطان شد برادرش، یک طرف فتاد بیجان جسم اکبرش، یک طرف دشمن بدخواه خنده میزند سوی جسم تیر باران حسین. لبای تیزی خنجر بوسه میزند برگ خنجر اچان حسین. ز غمش خواهر مظلوم ناله میزند سوی احوال پریشان حسین. لشکر کوفی و شامی حمله ور شدند، اهل بیت آل طه در بدر شدند. بر خیام بدفایان شعله میزند آتش ظلم لعینان حسین. لبای تیزی خنجر بوسه میزند برگ خنجر اشان حسین. ز غمش خواهر مظلوم ناله میزند سوی احوال پریشان. صلوات محمدی.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله. يا حسين 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 يا حسين.
الحسين وبالحسين 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 حسين وبالحسين 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 بالحسين وبالحسين بالحسين وبالحسين بالحسين حسين بالحسين إنني عبد له عشت أرجو وصله، إنه الخير الذي طوقني منذ القدم، لائمي دع قوله لست أزغي عذله، أنا مجنون حسين لست أنساه ولن، أنا مجنون حسين لست أنساه ولن، به طهرت وجودي وملأت الأزغرين، بالحسين 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 بالحسين. إنه حبل الأمل به إيزان العمل، إنه حبل الأمل بل وميزان العمل، أنا لا قيمة لي لولا ارتباطي باسمه، أنا لا قيمة لي لولا ارتباطي باسمه، نوره منذ الأزل لم يزل يخشى المقل، نوره منذ الأزل لم يزل يخشى المقل، فهو نور الله بل مظهر خاف حلمهم، بالحسين 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 بالحسين. إنه عين العجب حبه أزكى نسب، الحسينيون فيه إخوة متحدون، الحسينيون فيه إخوة متحدون، هو للجمع سبب بل ومحبوب وأب، هو للجمع سبب بل ومحبوب وأب، كيف لا يجرفهم في حبه سيل الجنون، كيف لا يجرفهم في حبه سيل الجنون، به صوت الحب يدعو فهو الخائفين، بالحسين 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 بالحسين. كلما ليل الفتن حل في الكون وجن، كلما ليل الفتن حل في الكون وجن، أقصد الصبط ملاذا فهو مصباح الهدى، أقصد الصبط ملاذا فهو مصباح الهدى، أنا لا أخشى ولن، أنا لا أخشى ولن من بلائي بالمحن، فعلى درب حسينا لا أبالي بالردى، فعلى درب حسينا لا أبالي بالردى، ضامن فوزي حتى من أكون صفر اليدين، بالحسين 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 إنه عين العجب حبه أزكى نسب، الحسينيون فيه أخوة متحدون، هو للجمع سبب بل ومحبوب وأب، كيف لا يجرفهم في حبه سيل الجنون، كيف لا يجرفهم في حبه سيل الجنون، به صوت الحب يد فيهز الخافتين، بالحسين وبالحسين بالحسين 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 والحسين. وحده حب ارتبط دبة يا رب روحي وبه أصبحت حي، دبة يا رب روحي وبه أصبحت حي، ما لنا من الوسط ذاك محبوب فقط، ما لنا من الوسط ذاك محبوب فقط، فتش الروح ولن تلقى سوى أي شيء، فتش الروح ولن تلقى سوى شيء بما أدركت بداياتي به أدركت ما أول النشأتين بالحسين وبالحسين بالحسين بالحسين وبالحسين بالحسين. بارك الله بكم. إلى شرف النبي والأمة الأطهار الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
سلام ما به حسین و به کربلای حسین. سلام ما به علمدار با وفای حسین. سلام ما به فرات و به موج سوزانش. سلام ما به ابوالفضل و چشم گریانش. سلام ای کعبه دل حسین جان. سلام ای کعبه دل حسین جان. سلام ای شمع محفل حسین جان. حسین جانم حسین جانم حسین جان. حسین جانم حسین حسین جانم حسین جان. سلام ای باب رحمت باب جنت. سلام ای باب رحمت باب جنت. سلام ای رهبر والا حسین جان. سلام ای میوه قلب پیامبر. سلام ای میوه قلب پیامبر. سلام ای زاده زهرا حسین جان. حسین جانم حسین جانم حسین جان. حسین جانم حسین حسین جانم حسین حسین جان. همیشه بر لبم نام تو باشد. همه گویم توی مولا حسین جان. غمت را از دل و جان میپذیرم. کنم بر پا عزایت را حسین جان. حسین جانم حسین جانم 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 حسین جان. بو چشم امید من بسویت. بو چشم امید من بسویت. در این دنیا در آن دنیا حسین جان. بسائل کن نظر ز لطف و رحمت. بسائل کن نظر ز لطف و رحمت. بجان مادرت زهرا حسین جان. حسین جانم حسین جانم 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 حسین جان. صلوات.
ما لها حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلی سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلی جس کی ابا رن میں جلی جس کی ابا رن میں جلی منہ پر تماچوں کے نشان مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن حسین یا حسین یا حسین وہ عابد بیمار تھا وہ عابد بیمار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین محمد وآل محمد صلوات متوجه زيارة عاشوراء
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم يا أبا عبد الله يا أبا عبد الله يا أبا عبد إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجانة، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمره، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك بأبي أنت وأمي، لقد عظم مصابي بك. فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيحا بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، يا أبا عبد الله، يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قتلك ونصب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب، وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم، وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصاب بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقام هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن الآكلة الأكباد، اللعين ابن اللعين، على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله، في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية، عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب العليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم، وبموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد، وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن الإصابة التي جاحدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب اللهم خس أنت أول الظالم باللعن مني، وأبد به أولا ثم للثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانه وعمر بن سعد وشمرة وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجدة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصاب بهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيته. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا محجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين.